Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Agile breakout session today. We hope you all enjoyed the keynote. We're going to start with a couple quick introductions. I'm Colin Mangum. I'm a Senior Director of Product Marketing here at Lucid. I've been here for a little over 7 years, so I've seen a lot of change over that time. I'm based in Queen Creek, Arizona, and for the past year or two, I've been really focused on how Agile teams use Lucid, how we can help Agile teams more. So super excited to talk more about it today. And I'm glad to have my colleague, Christian Chavez, here with me as well. Christian, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Colin. I'm excited to be here. Hi, everyone. My name is Christian. I'm a customer trainer here on our Lucid services team. I'm based out of DC, and I'm really excited to show you a lot of great things about Lucid today.
Awesome. Thank you. So before we get started, a few reminders. This session is being recorded, so you can expect an email soon with the recordings of today's keynote and all 4 breakout sessions from Lately at Lucid. So not just this one, but other ones as well, in case you are interested in those topics. And we have an amazing team behind the scenes helping us answer your questions. So please use the Q&A for asking questions and the chat for sharing your thoughts and excitement. We definitely want to hear from you all. So if you joined our Lately at Lucid event in October, you know we have been super focused on supporting Agile teams, or any team that wants to work more collaboratively. We have focused on this because as we meet with users like you, we hear how critical it is that Agile teams are able to collaborate, gain alignment, and move work forward to deliver value effectively. And these are all the sweet spot for Lucid. And as you just heard in the keynote, there is a lot more stuff to come. So Lucid helps Agile organizations and teams have more engaging Agile events, from daily stand-ups to big room planning and everything in between. We're going to get into the product in a few minutes and show you exactly how. But before we do, we want to hear from one of our customers and your peer on just how Lucid has impacted the way their teams work together and the impact that it has had. So let's hear from Jon Lingard, who has worked in functions such as Agile coach, product owner, and business analyst at Jaguar Land Rover for almost 7 years.
So my name is Jon Lingard. I am the lead business analyst of one of them, for amongst other roles, for Jaguar Land Rover. I actually use Lucid in an entirely different way, which is from a scenario planning perspective. I find Lucid to be very good at visual representation, which is, to be honest, what you need when you're planning remotely. And what Lucid did recently with the integration with Jira, through timelines and through dynamic tables, all of that allows us to use data, Jira as a data source, and visualize that through Lucid. We're building really complex vehicles. So we've got a new vehicle program that comes out. That means that we have to actually, as a whole, as a collective, that's 40,000 people here, build various attributes of this car, bring it all together, underpin that with all of the software and everything else that comes into the complexity of the vehicles. And vehicles now are not just on vehicle, we're talking about the whole cloud infrastructure. We have to bring all of that together. The way that we actually do that is using Scaled Agile. What Lucid's done with the timeline is allowed us to use Jira as the data, but visualize it across loads of different Jira projects, allowing loads of different people to collaborate, and also at different levels. So while somebody might want to look at the very finer detail, the granular detail, we've also got our leadership team who just want to see the high level. And so we're able to create lots of different roadmaps at different levels. And also with the idea of things like breakout boards, we're then able to kind of position, if you like, those different levels and different delivery plans, but all in one space. And we've got to be able to know when we're going to hit certain milestones, what actually happens if somebody's struggling, and how do we get over those blockages and those dependencies. And with the timelines in Lucid, we're able to do this all on, with different value streams and different swim lanes. We're able to do this all on one place, which actually then helps if you've got the dependency mapping part that Lucid have got as well. So you can kind of see what's blocking what and what's dependent on what. I think that's been the game changer for us. There's a real want to understand what the product can do in the future. And the only way it's going to understand how to grow into, a much better product is to understand what its customers are saying. Lucid does that really well. They do it really well. It's literally one of the best companies I've ever known for actually listening to their customers and turning what their customers are saying into a set of products or set of functionality. But yeah, it's quite easy for me to talk about Lucid because I genuinely think you are game changing. So it's not like I'm actually just trying to make this up for camera. I genuinely believe if we didn't have Lucid, I'd be doing this on a whiteboard, like I said.
It is so awesome to hear from passionate Lucid customers, and we've greatly appreciated Jon's partnership as we continue to develop, as he said, game-changing solutions for our users. So I want to highlight some of the ways Jon said Lucid has been highly impactful, and we've heard these from many other customers as well. Lucid makes Agile events more visual and engaging, while still being data-backed with Jira or ADO to ensure accuracy and efficiency. I love that Jon called out the power that comes with a flexible canvas that is still very data-oriented. And we'll get into some of these features and how we see them used in a minute, but just know they are highly flexible and used by teams doing sprint planning or backlog refinement, but can also be used in big room or quarterly planning by programs as well. And speaking of bringing programs and teams together, this is another place we see customers adopting and loving Lucid to facilitate more engaging and productive big room planning sessions and set teams up for success on initiatives. But teams don't stop there. Jon talked about the ability to visualize things at multiple levels with Lucid's timelines and how this is critical for teams understanding key dates, milestones, and even dependencies assisted by Lucid's dependency mapping. And we all know that for an organization or program to succeed, it is a team effort across many functions. So the ability to clearly understand, communicate, and track progress is critical. But I know you don't want to hear from me this whole time. So let's see how this all comes together within the Lucid suite. So with that, Christian, why don't you kick us off by showing how Agile teams often get started with using Lucid?
Thanks so much. Yeah, I'm really excited today to talk about our different Agile ways of working in our Lucid products. Now, I know that Agile is going to look different from team member to team member, but we wanted to give you some concepts as to how you can use Agile products in Lucid to be able to brainstorm effectively, plan out your sprints, and conduct retrospectives effectively. Now, the first step to any team working in Lucid is always going to be to start off in a Lucid team. Here you can see I'm in a Lucid-based team that has all the links, descriptions, and people I need to be able to collaborate in one place. This is going to give me a spot so I can access all my different documents that I have, documents that are shared with me, and one of my favorites, even a pinned document that's always at the ready for my team to be able to access. So let's say I were to open up this pinned document and head straight into our Agile Center board. Now, in any type of Agile workflow, one of the best ways to start is going to be brainstorming. And I believe there is no better tool to use for brainstorming than Lucidspark and our visual collaboration suite. You're going to be able to collaborate effectively anywhere, anytime. And you're going to notice that Lucid is going to excel in these for a few key reasons. First off, you're going to find that you're going to quickly capture and synthesize all of your different ideas from any team member. Lucidspark excels in creating these really vibrant, energetic, and informative boards. And anytime that you have an idea or two and you come into some kind of roadblock in a team meeting, you can always use our generative AI capabilities to generate 9 new ideas from any prompt that you have. And lastly, my absolute favorite feature in all of Lucid, I'm going to show you how you can use visual activities to be able to prioritize your different ideas and tasks and gain different types of data-backed insights from those. So let's go ahead and take a look at our first board of the day with a brainstorming use case. Here, I can see I have a board with all the different components that I need. Now, first off, I'm going to start over here on the left-hand side with a simple brainstorming prompt. You can see that I've added in a few different ideas for features that customers are currently requesting. We have topics like quick tutorials, user analytics, dynamic links, and more. Sticky notes are going to be the primary way to be able to add in any idea that you have, and it's as easy to do that as simply double-clicking on your screen. But what happens if you enter in lots of different ideas onto your board and you come up into some kind of obstacle? You're like, I can't, seem to think of any more ideas on how to tackle this problem. Well, here's what you can do with our collaborative AI feature. I could easily select a set of sticky notes, and in my contextual menu, select this little sparkle icon to quickly generate 9 new ideas for me. This can be based off of a group of sticky notes or an individual prompt. So now I can say, oh, well, I know we needed a few more ideas. A couple common features here are going to be offline mode and some seamless integration with other third-party applications. Now, once you add in all of your different sticky notes into your frame here, one of our newest and one of my favorite features to be able to use to organize your content effectively is one called assisted layout. You can see that as I apply an assisted layout to my frame, it's going to immediately separate my frame into a table-like structure. So as I move around different types of stickies, it'll immediately snap to different parts of that table in my frame. This is going to be a really great tool to manage the chaos for large room planning meetings, so you can then go into a focused brainstorming and prioritization activity. Now, speaking of focused brainstorming and prioritization activities, I want to be able to show you my favorite feature that I mentioned, which is all about visual activities. Visual activities are a way in Lucid that you can create a positional voting game where you can then use that game to be able to sort tasks on a scale, sort them into containers, and prioritize them as needed. Here, you can see I have a template of a visual activity, and all I have to do is take my different ideas that I already voted on, like these 4 here, and simply just drag them into my visual activity. As soon as I do that, they're going to be able to be voted on and interacted using this little axis on the right-hand side. So let me save changes and actually take a look and see what it would look like as to start this activity here that I've already created. I'm going to select Start, and I can left-click and drag all of these different sticky notes into different parts of my axis. Now, the huge benefit here is that this is a positional voting game. So I can say, well, what is the impact versus the effort on implementing a text-based multi-factor authentication approach? I might think this is going to be a pretty big bet. But some of these other features seem like really easy wins that I can set up for my team to create quick wins with customers. And as soon as I've clicked and dragged these into any area that I want, I can submit my response down below. And the best part, you can view all the different results from your team members. If I were to click on View Results here, you can see so many different data points. My absolute favorite one is this default positional average here, because what it allows me to do is hover over different sticky notes, and I can see, generally speaking, where people voted. So for example, a lot of us seem to be aligned on improved user analytics, that this might be an incremental win, and therefore maybe something that we shouldn't prioritize immediately. But a lot of us tend to think that integrating AI is going to be a big bet, and that's going to be a big focus for our upcoming quarter. But one of my favorite things to do with these visual activities is use them as a space to be able to ask clarifying questions. So here, for example, in our text-based MFA feature, I think this is a big bet, whereas, for example, we have Shannon over here that thinks it's an easy win. This gives me an opportunity to ask Shannon and say, Shannon, is there a way that we can make this easier to implement that I'm not thinking of? I cannot tell you how many times I've done a visual activity and changed my mind or reprioritized a task because of a question based off of these data-backed insights that we got from this results analyzer. In addition to positional average, I would implore you to take a look at all of the different types of filters you can look at, like being able to filter based off of user or even item itself and where individuals voted. Now, let's say we go through all of these different tasks and we've prioritized them. We know what we want to work on next. Our last step is to be able to convert these sticky notes into cards. We know that one of the core ways in any Agile workflow is to be able to use cards to visualize your different tasks so that way your team is clear on what the task involves. And luckily, in Lucid, there is a really easy way to do this. I can simply select on my sticky note and convert it into any type of card I want, like a Lucid card here. Now, I have a little extra surprise for you. I don't know if anyone here uses Jira or Asana or ADO or a number of our other different applications, but you can also convert any of these sticky notes into any of those task-based cards. So I can convert this into not just a Lucid card, but for example, a Jira issue, a Smartsheet row, or an Asana task. Now, as soon as you go through and convert all of these into any type of task you want, we now have ways to be able to not only take our ideas from sticky notes into an Agile-based workflow into our system, we now have ways to edit all of these different cards. And here you can see that in just a few clicks, you can turn any sticky note you want into a data-backed integrated card with your preferred system of record.
Christian, this is so awesome. I love that we're starting to show this. I want to highlight a few things. I'm on customer calls all the time. The visual activity you showed is so critical for getting teams to understand where they're at, like you talked through, and gain alignment. This is sometimes a like 20, 30-minute conversation that with that visual activity can become like 20 seconds to go, okay, we're aligned here, we're not here, here's where we need to have discussions. Like these are such powerful tools for teams. And now you're getting into these cards where it's like, not only are you doing this in a more collaborative way in Lucid, but it's syncing with your system of record. So you can have confidence that you're not going to have like these different sources of truth. Like this is really powerful. I had a customer just last week being like, that visual activity is kind of cool. We use the Moscow method. How would I use this? I spun up a visual activity and was like, this is exactly what we need. So they're super flexible. They're really powerful. I love it. So why don't you now, I know you're getting there, but like show us, we looked at these cards. I know there's so much more we can do with cards that people really go crazy for. Why don't we show them kind of how you use these cards when you're in maybe like sprint planning or other Agile events like that?
Absolutely, I would love to. And I love all those notes about visual activities. This is just one use case, but we have so many more that you can use in your Agile workflows. Now, let's take a look at some of these other features that Colin was talking about on how we can use these cards in our sprint planning methods. So with sprint planning, we have a number of different controls that we can use to be able to have dynamic integrations in Lucidspark, save us time, and visualize our tasks in new ways. Some of my favorite ways that Lucidspark shows up in this use case is your ability to seamlessly import tasks from your system of record. I mentioned all the different applications that we had available for that earlier, and these applications are going to create a bidirectional sync for any task that you import. So if you import a Jira card, for instance, it's going to sync up with Jira. So any change you make to the card is made in Jira, and any change you make in Jira is made here in Lucidspark. And the power of these cards is that you're going to be able to visualize your tasks in a number of new ways. So Lucidspark is not here at all to replace your favorite project management and task-based system. It's here to be its best friend and work side by side to allow you to visualize these in ways that are going to be beneficial for your teams and your business. Some of my favorite ways are going to be dynamic tables, putting those on timelines like we saw in a video earlier, and even being able to map out visual dependencies in Jira. Let's take a look at some of these examples and see exactly how this looks like in action. So here we can see a number of different tasks that we've gone ahead and imported from Jira. Now, I mentioned we're using Jira, but you can use any system you want. And as soon as you set up that integration, on the left-hand side here, you can go through and import tasks or create new tasks from Jira. You can see if I go to my importing menu, I can import from a custom JQL search query, or I can import from a number of different parameters like your projects, your boards, your sprints, and more. All you have to do is select your different tasks and import those straight into your board to be able to get all of these different vibrant cards that are of wealth of information. You can see these cards have status updates, assignees, different kinds of linked issues. And some of these cards are estimated. We can see that this one has 21 story points, whereas this one has 2 story points. Now, if we look over here, we see this one doesn't have any story points, but I do have a little status bar at the bottom that shows my team is ready to vote on this and apply a story point together. I can go over here to my dynamic story point bubbles and click and drag any point that I want to right below this shape. As I do so, we can see that, wow, both of us actually think this is a 3 story point based task. It has 2 votes, and I'm going to go ahead and click on apply this estimate. And as soon as I do that, that story point will be assigned to this card, and you'll see that change being updated in Jira. Now, this is already really cool, but I promise the coolness does not stop there. My favorite thing to do with these cards is to be able to view them in what we call a dynamic table. It's going to be a Kanban board-like view that's going to allow you to apply a number of different filters directly from Jira. All I have to do is select my tasks here and wrap them around this dynamic table. You can see that I actually already have one set up here on the right-hand side. Now, this is just a view that you can't get anywhere else. And this is why I mentioned we're here to work hand in hand with your systems. Here I can see by default on the left, we have assignees, and on the top, we have status. But it's not restricted to just status. I could say assignees on the left, but perhaps I want to sort based off of issue type on the top. Now, what I really love about these is that they're super adaptive. So let's say you're using this in a stand-up or planning meeting. And for example, Joseph over here calls out sick this week, and they are unable to make it to work. So we're going to have to redistribute this workflow that we just went ahead and applied a story point to. So now our team can look through and say, well, how much capacity do I have? And me, as Jared, might go through and say, I only have 2 story points so far. I'm just going to go ahead and left-click and drag Joseph's task into my column. And as soon as I do, it'll change it to my profile bubble and make this change directly in Jira. So you're going to see you can use these tables not just to create filtered-based views, but also to create these really intuitive changes in Lucid and in Jira as well. Now, this isn't the only way to visualize your tasks either. I have even more for you. We heard about in the video being able to use timelines and how timelines are so helpful to map out any kind of task that we have. Here, I can see what it would look like to map out all of these Jira tickets on a specific timeline. In this timeline, we can go through and apply different kinds of milestones, to-day markers, and a whole other host of different types of controls, sprints, days, months, no matter the filter, we have it here for you. And if you want to really dial it up to 11 and take it a step further, we have these little linked issue buttons on these cards. You can visualize using Lucidspark all of your different dependencies between these cards. Let's see what that looks like. I can go to my Jira integration on the left-hand side, select Visualize Linked Issues, and show all the different links from card to card. And we can see that this task actually blocks this task. We're going to have to make sure this is sorted before our feature launch coming up on March 10th. Now, if you want to create your own dependencies straight from Lucidspark, you can do that too, and it's going to work exactly like you want it to. I have so many customers that ask, well, can I just drag a line from one shape onto another? And you absolutely can. As soon as you connect your cards together using these lines, you can set it up so it's not just a basic line. You actually link these issues in Jira, and we'll see that issue synced up with Jira's backend, in addition to being visualized here in Lucidspark. This is one of our favorite features that we've launched recently, and I cannot tell you how many customers I talk with that absolutely love this dependency mapping feature.
Yeah, thanks for showing all this. We just went through so many features, and you're spot on, Christian. This is often the time when I'm giving a demo where customers are like, wait, show that again or explain that. Like, it can't be as good as what you just showed me, and this can't be as awesome as you're alluding to. And I'm like, no, it's really this great. In fact, on a call recently, we had a customer who had used a different virtual whiteboard for a while and really liked it and wasn't super excited to have to try out Lucid. But as soon as she tried the combination of Jira cards and a dynamic table, she was like, you made a Lucid fanatic out of me. I couldn't believe how powerful that was. And, Christian showed just 1 or 2 pivots, but imagine the ability to pivot by sprint, by epic. You can do things at a program level, at a team level. Like, it's so powerful. And we hear all the time, like, oh, this is how I want to work, but it's just kind of hard in Jira. It's hard in other places. So you showing all this functionality, I'm hoping, is giving people these ideas of like, wow, that's a really powerful and engaging and collaborative way to work. And, hopefully everyone watching will go try some of this stuff out. So another thing that comes up all the time, you just showed all these really powerful data back features, but is honestly something that's maybe a little more simple, but equally as important in working with teams, is retrospectives. Like, how can you run an effective retrospective using Lucid? Do you mind jumping in and kind of showing some of that?
Absolutely, Colin. I would love to show everyone how to conduct a retrospective in Lucid, because this is my absolute favorite introductory use case to recommend to anyone that wants to get started with Lucidspark. Conducting retrospectives in Lucid has fundamentally changed the way that I view how to conduct them. Previously, I used to do retros in a round-robin style format, coming off of mute. And I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but I noticed that sometimes people would just get left behind. Certain voices would overshadow others. I wouldn't get feedback from everyone, or perhaps people had things they were attending to in the background because we're in such a remote-first digital world. So you're going to see that retros in Lucid are going to provide you with a few key value props. We have tons of ready-made templates that match hand in hand with lots of different Agile workflows that you already have. For example, your 4Ls retrospectives, your speedboat retrospectives, anything that you've already conducted, we likely have a template for. You're going to notice that it's also going to improve this concept of collaborative equity. This is what I was mentioning earlier. You're going to notice that because everyone is now on the same playing field with all these different sticky notes, ideas are going to come through that just weren't able to come through in the previous way that you would run voice-based round-robin style retros. And lastly, we have lots of different features, including private mode, that are going to create a sense of psychological safety for your users anytime you need to add more anonymous ideas, whether it's feedback for a manager or a little bit more of a sensitive topic. Let's go ahead and take a look at exactly what a retro board might look like here in Lucid. Now, here I've imported a retro template, our standard 4Ls retro. And this isn't the only template we have, by the way. You can go to your template section up here at the top left and access any type of Agile or retrospective template that you want, including 4Ls, reflection, speedboats, and more. Now, let's take a look here. So our recommended workflow for these types of retrospectives is to be able to have everyone hop on the call. And I'm going to use a quick action little button here to start an 8-minute timer. Over the course of these 8 minutes, our teams are going to go through and add ideas, dragging sticky notes into these respective sections and filling them out as needed. You can see I actually already have a couple here, like we liked the great feedback that we had on our features. Some things that we learned were some features need additional partnerships with our team. Or as Colin's adding, we were lacking a little bit of cross-team communication. Now, in addition to being able to add these sticky notes, you can, of course, go through and add in different kinds of emoji reactions to be able to provide sentiment analysis to any kind of idea that you want to really show the level of support that your team is agreeing with one particular idea. Now, what if we want to be able to create that sense of psychological safety that I mentioned, that anonymous mode that's going to allow your teams to vote with confidence anytime they need to? This is when I can also use private mode. You can see up here I have a button for private mode. And if I select this, we are immediately going to start a collaborative private mode session with all of our users on the board. So what this is going to look like is any idea that I add on my screen is going to be this sort of dark blue with white text. So for example, if I'm filling this out in the what was lacking section, I might say that we needed a little bit more cross-departmental alignment. And we can see someone else is filling out another idea, and their idea is blocked out in gray with these little squiggly lines. So as soon as I go through here and everyone votes on their different ideas, or everyone adds in their different ideas that they want, we can turn off private mode for everyone, and authors will remain hidden, and everything will appear as a single color sticky note. And from here, don't be afraid to still use all of the different types of collaborative features that you have in Lucid. You can vote on these different types of private sticky notes. You can put them in a visual activity like we referenced earlier, or you can even convert them into cards and put them in timelines, connect them to Jira, and more. But this is just one way that I recommend to use a retrospective. I promise you, if you start to adopt this way of conducting retros in Lucid, you are going to find that it is going to provide some of the best meetings you have ever had.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Christian. I love, some of the simplicity of our templates, those quick actions that make it so it's really easy to find and guide your way through an event, right? The ability for a facilitator to okay, I remember a timer and how much time we want to do. It helps the facilitator, but also helps the team members kind of know how to navigate a meeting. So really appreciate it. And thank you so much, Christian. You covered so much, but believe it or not, we really are just scratching the surface. And so I just want to point out that this was a simplified view of a team working through a sprint, doing a retrospective. We know there might be some that use Kanban or other frameworks, or maybe you don't even work off sprints and you're thinking about it in a different way. We know every organization and every team does it a little differently. We also know this was focused on how a team works, and so much of the impact that teams can make is together and across functions, as Jon from JLR highlighted. So much of what we showed today, you can leverage at the program or kind of teams of team level during big room or PI planning and beyond. So overall, we really hope you can see how flexible and customizable Lucid is, so it can work for your organization or team. And again, we aren't stopping there. Lucid's new Agile Accelerator helps organizations better scale their Agile practices to improve team performance, as well as increase visibility for teams and leaders. By using these capabilities, organizations will be able to disseminate Agile practices to multiple teams in a more scalable way, effectively surface qualitative insights about team confidence and health and risks, and allow you to explore different possibilities and factor in constraints around staffing, scope, and timelines to achieve value effectively. So for example, the blueprints that we covered in the keynote will allow organizations to distribute proven ways of working to teams really seamlessly, but with the flexibility for each team to make it work for them. That's what we often hear from people, is the need to be able to, disseminate those ways of working, share between teams what's working and what's not, but then each team kind of make it their own. And that's what the blueprints are designed to do. Then that visual activity that Christian showed, you can imagine one used for a confidence vote, right? Where you drag out your confidence level. These can now be shared with your insights dashboard for visibility in order to identify risks and blockers sooner, right? There's so many of these simple ways for teams to share now that qualitative insights in their natural workflow using visual activities. And finally, you saw some of the magic of Jira and ADO cards and dynamic tables. The scenario planning that will be part of the Agile Accelerator will allow organizations to more effectively plan and understand the impact of changing the staffing or the scope and the timelines in a very visual and data-driven way, so that capacity is more visible and seen and automatically calculated. And there's really powerful things coming to those dynamic tables with those integrations. So this was awesome. We really appreciate the engagement from you all in the chat and Q&A. We truly only had time to scratch the surface. So I really implore you to dive into some of the educational materials that we have to get the most out of Lucid for Agile teams. You can find those in the resources section, and we'll send them via email as well. It was so great to hear from Jon and many of you in the chat on how powerful this functionality is and how you all are already using it. So thank you all for joining. Let us know how we can help you be successful, and we hope you have a wonderful day.